American history. Canada, great economic power since 1945. Canada, a great economic power since 1945. In the post-World War Roman II period, Canada emerged as an economic giant in the world, and this has been attributed to an interplay of factors which include the following. 1. The limited impact of the Second World War on Canada was at center stage in post-war development. Whereas Canada actively participated in the Great War as an allied power, the war did not leave great damage on Canada's economy save for the Battle of St. Lawrence, and so the country registered little or no physical destruction. The Canadian economy also grew and benefited from the war and war industries. 2. The presence of hydroelectric power is another factor that accelerated the road to Canada's prosperity. Major developments in the early 20th century at Niagara Falls and along Quebec's numerous rivers created new opportunities for cheap industrial power and convenience for an increasing number of Canadian homes. Hydroelectric power also quickly became another export industry, which continues to the present day. 3. Canada remained a trading nation dependent on international markets. In the interwar years, trade with the United States and Great Britain predominated. After 1945, the United States was by far Canada's largest trading partner. By the mid-1960s, Canada's exports to the United States were 5 times greater than the next largest partner and represented more than 60% of all Canadian exports. The importance of the United States was recognized with the Canada-United States Free Trade Agreement of 1988, which subsequently was expanded into the North American Free Trade Agreement NAFTA when Mexico joined it in 1994. Most recently, the rise of the Asian economies has moderated this trend, and countries like Japan and especially China have become important markets for Canadian goods. However, the constants continue, commodities dominate, and trade remains vital to Canada's economic well-being. 4. The flourishing agricultural sector of Canada undoubtedly led to her economic growth. Canada is one of the largest agricultural producers and exporters in the world. As with other developed nations, the proportion of the population and GDP devoted to agriculture fell dramatically over the 20th century, but it remains an important element of the Canadian economy. A wide range of agriculture is practiced in Canada, from sprawling wheat fields of the Canadian prairies to summer produce of the Okanagan Valley. In the federal government, overview of Canadian agriculture is the responsibility of the Department of Agriculture and Agri-Food. 5. The Canadian petroleum industry played a significant role towards economic development. The evolution of the petroleum sector has been a key factor in the history of Canada, and helped illustrate how the country became quite distinct from her neighbour to the south. Although the conventional oil and gas industry in Western Canada. American history. Canada, great economic power since 1945. 6. The geographical location of Canada has been of great advantage. Canada is fortunate to be surrounded by the Atlantic, Pacific, and Arctic oceans, as well as the Great Lakes that contain abundant and valuable sources of fish and seafood. The variety of products that Canadian fishermen harvest from these sources are sold within Canada and exported around the world's international markets. In total, the Canadian fishing industry exports over 75% of the products harvested and processed in Canada. In 2015, Canada was the 8th largest fish and seafood exporter in the world, sending products valued at $6 billion to over 130 countries. 7. Large market for Canadian goods paved way to Canada's rise as an economic giant. Canada's seafood trade has been enjoying a preference market. For example, the United States is one of the most important markets for Canadian seafood exports and represents 64% of Canada's seafood trade. China 11%, European Union 10%, Japan 4%, and Hong Kong 2% are also key export markets for Canadian seafood products. The seafood trade is a sector of the Canadian economy that has a trade surplus. For instance, in 2016, the total value of Canadian fish and seafood exports was over $6.08 billion compared to the value of imported fish and seafood products that was over $3.08 billion. Because of such foreign markets, Canada's economy has been able to expand. 8. The automotive industry in Canada consists primarily of assembly plants of foreign automakers, most with headquarters in the United States or Japan, along with hundreds of manufacturers of automotive parts and systems. Canada is currently the 9th largest auto producer in the world and 4th largest auto exporter by value, producing 2.4 million vehicles and exporting $48.08 billion worth of vehicles in 2016. Canada's highest rankings ever, with the 2nd largest producer in the world between 1918 and 1923 and 3rd after World War II. Automotive manufacturing is one of Canada's largest industrial sectors, accounting for 10% of manufacturing GDP and 23% of manufacturing trade. Canada produces passenger vehicles, trucks and buses, auto parts and systems, truck bodies and trailers, as well as tires and machines. The auto industry directly employs more than 125,000 people in vehicle assembly and auto parts manufacturing, and another 380,000 in distribution and aftermarket sales and services. 9. Social programs in Canada include all government programs designed to give assistance to citizens outside what the market provides. The Canadian Social Safety Net covers a wide range of programs, many of which are run by the provinces. Canada has a wide range of government transfer payments to individuals. Most of these social programs that direct funds towards well-being of citizens between the 1930s and 1960s saw the emergence of a welfare state similar to many Western European countries. Most programs from that era are still in use. For example, all provinces in Canada provide universal, publicly funded healthcare to Canadian citizens, permanent residents and certain temporary residents, with their costs partially subsidized by the federal government. 10. The robust education policy made Canada an economic giant. In Canada, provinces and territories are responsible for their elementary and secondary schools. Education is compulsory up to the age of 16 in most provinces, 17 and 18 in others. Both elementary and secondary education is provided at a nominal cost. Post-secondary schooling is not free, but is subsidized by the federal and provincial government. Financial assistance is available through student loans and bursaries. This has made the Canadian population to be highly skilled and therefore feed the labour market. American history. Canada a great economic power since 1945. 11. The Canadian government is supportive towards development. The government has set up several agencies dedicated to developing specific regions. These include Canadian Northern Economic Development Agency, Atlantic Canada Opportunities Agency, Economic Development Agency of Canada for the regions of Quebec, Federal Economic Development Initiative for Northern Ontario, Federal Economic Development Agency for Southern Ontario, Western Economic Diversification Canada. 12. The presence of large mineral deposits has influenced Canada's economic development. Canada has long ranked among the world leaders in the production of minerals like uranium, zinc, potash, asbestos, sulfur, among others. It is also a major producer of iron ore, coal, petroleum, gold, copper, silver, lead, and a number of ferroalloys. Diamond mining, particularly in the Northwest Territories, is significant as well. These minerals have led to springing up of mining-related industries, e.g., iron and steel and transportation. 13. The role of the tourism sector contributed to Canada's economic growth. Canada has a large domestic and foreign tourism industry. The second largest country in the world, Canada's incredible geographical variety is a significant tourist attractor. Much of the country's tourism is centered in the following busiest regions: Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver/Whistler, Niagara Falls, Vancouver Island, Calgary/Canadian Rockies, British Columbia's Okanagan Valley, and the National Capital Region, Ottawa. The large cities are known for their culture, diversity, as well as the many national parks and historic sites. In 2012, over 16 million tourists arrived in Canada, bringing US $17.04 billion in international tourism receipts to the economy. Domestic and international tourism combined directly contributes 1% of Canada's total GDP and supports 309,000 jobs in the country. Sites of interest in Vancouver include Capilano Suspension Bridge, Stanley Park, visited by 8 million visitors each year,